Okay, it's a couple minutes after 5:30. I think we have everybody here now, and therefore let's call the meeting to order. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first up, we have the consent agenda.
I move for approval. Second.
Okay, discussion.
Mr. Chair, I was gonna ask to remove extension number 5, extension and non-extensions for the 2024-2025 calendar year. I didn't see any names or reasons or anything. And number 4 as well, renewal and non-renewal, both number 4 and 5. So putting it into the agenda so I can better understand the processes. I think they could make a decision not knowing anything surrounding the reason for renewals, non-renewals, extensions, non-extensions, clearly the retirements, resignations, and I'm not going to be able to convince somebody to stay.
Right, did you not get the list that was sent?
I did get the list. I saw the list. There was renewal, there was hires, or I'm sorry, there was retirements and resignations, but there was no names listed for renewals and extensions that I saw.
Right.
Well, it's been moved and seconded. Do you want to address the discussion time?
Yeah.
This is the discussion time, yes.
Normally, we wouldn't provide the public with names of non-extensions and non-renewals. And so I believe they included numbers, employee numbers for privacy reasons.
I didn't see any listing of anything that would give me a reason why there was a renewal. So I know there's probationary periods and such. I didn't know if they were probationary where it was just not renewed for any reason, or if it was budget or what.
That's not normally something that we would discuss in a public meeting.
Okay, well, I'm concerned voting for something like that without having that information. I share that with the board, and you can vote how you will. Okay. I think it's important that we, as a board, if we're going to decide to not extend somebody's contract, that we at least know like a little bit of the reason why.
What I can say is that the non-extensions are temporary contracts.
Okay.
That wouldn't be renewed regardless of performance.
Can you tell me if the renewal number 4, the renewal the non-renewals, were they all probationary?
I can't tell you that, but well, the renewals are all temporaries. So, and Rita, you can correct me.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
That's something we couldn't discuss without executive session anyway.
I figured that
Specifics.
I figured that if we did take it on, we would go to executive, but if they were temporary and yeah, then that's fair. Fair enough. Enough information.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. And now we have a number of people signed up for public comment today. Let me read the disclaimer quickly. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the South Plains School District Board of Directors. Thank you for taking time to attend. For clarity, I would like to remind those in attendance that this is a board meeting that is held in public according to Oregon Public Meeting Law, which is not the same as a meeting with the public. As such, the board does not engage with audience members, which can feel awkward at times, but is the process prescribed in law. The board is not required to set time aside to hear comments from members of the public. The board wishes to hear from community members, so there will be a public comment period after the consent agenda. Speakers who wish to address the board must sign up before the meeting using the sign-up sheet outside the boardroom or by contacting the district office. The board chair will recognize each speaker for a period of 3 minutes. We ask that speakers be seated at the designated table, clearly identify themselves, and state whether they reside within the district before speaking. If multiple speakers are presenting on the same topic, please select one person to represent the group. Please note that the board is not allowed to hear comments about any individual or comments deemed in violation of policy AC non-discrimination. If a person begins to comment about either of these protected areas, the board chair will ask them to stop and they must end their comment at that time. Furthermore, policy KL public complaints states the board will not hear personal complaints concerning school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. To do so could expose the board, to a charge of being party to slander and would prejudice any necessity to act as the final review of administrative recommendations regarding the matter. With that, our first speaker tonight is Danny Henson.
Hello, my name is Daniel Henson. My address is 80176 Hazelton Road in Cottage Grove, Oregon. Can I begin whenever?
Yes.
Thank you. Get my stopwatch here. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, representatives of the district, thank you for granting me this time. I am here as a community member, a proud South Lane teacher of 9 years, and as a union representative for my building. In this district, I work alongside inspiring professionals who dedicate their time and energy to our kids so they can have the best educational experience we can give them. My love for this district and the work we do here makes the following comments difficult for me. My personal experience and that of my colleagues and students regarding finances, payroll, and employee accounts is one of confusion and frustration. I want to first acknowledge that many of these concerns have been nominally recognized by the district as of Friday last week. This is a good start, but does not in itself retroactively alleviate the stress and hardship these issues have caused many over the past 2 years, nor does it yet correct them. These issues include, but are not limited to, the following. Employees have recently discovered that our retirement contributions have not been made to PERS or 403Bs correctly for up to 6 months in some cases. W-2s have been completed incorrectly, leading to filing delays. Healthcare savings accounts payments have not been made, resulting in personal costs. Reimbursements to employees have not been filed for weeks on end. Employees have been placed on the incorrect pay schedule, leaving them hovering over a financial cliff, as they were notified the last day before summer break previously that they would not receive any further pay for 3 months. Attempts to purchase equipment for activities or wraparound services for our students have been denied because of late or erroneous payments made through the district. Some of this funding is tied to grants, which will expire soon. Students excited for the opportunity to do paid work through their schools are now dealing with incorrect paychecks and taxes, in at least one case being overpaid and needing to work unexpected additional hours to balance out the excess that they cannot afford to pay back. The list of issues continues. When we have appealed for information regarding these issues, we have been given vague, misdirecting, or troubling explanations from the district that in some cases directly contradict those from our retirement account managers and others. All of these matters are distressing for reasons that may or may not be obvious. The few compensatory benefits upon which we can rely as public employees, and which many have been able to trust implicitly for decades in this district, are now seemingly in question. As someone who cares like you do about this district and its stakeholders, the potential negligence implicit in these issues hurts me a lot. It hurts the people I work with, and it negatively affects our kids. Every minute we as employees have to dedicate to resolving these issues personally and individually is time taken away from our kids. Every emotionally overwhelming moment takes away from the strength of our work with them. These issues must be resolved expediently. They must not be repeated again. Whatever measures of accountability are necessary to achieve that outcome must be taken. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Sherry Yoss.
Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay, do I need to repeat it? Okay, 707 Shields Lane, Cottage Grove, Sherry Yoss. So we have done this petition. We're not going to turn it in. We're going to give you the count and we're going to welcome all school board members to view it. Tonight, someone was supposed to drop the last one in, so I have the rough count for that. And I don't have the count for the online one, but we are at 796 right now. That doesn't, the petition that's coming in, they gave me a verbal. And then the online one, I think, is somewhere between 80 and 90 votes. So that should put us right over 800. And this is a petition for not to renew the contract. I want to say a few things, and this makes me quite nervous. And one thing is, someone claimed that I've spoke many times here. I did a public records check with Tanya. I've spoke twice. This will be my third time in the last 18 months. I did correct some information that was given that was incorrect when it was being given. But besides that, I have not. This is my third time. So I want to make sure everyone understands I'm in no way threatening anyone, because people keep saying, you know, we're threatening you in some way. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm just stating that despite the horrible weather, we were still able to get that many votes. And honestly, the only people who denied us were people who we were told that the school district has been warning them not to participate in this this petition. While we were doing this petition, I had people come in and give me horror stories about being threatened, intimidated, and even after leaving the school district followed. And I asked them, like, why haven't you got an attorney? Most of them said they have talked to attorneys, but the school district's attorney is such a massive group for the state of Oregon that they've told them, you know, unless you have deep pockets, don't even worry about it. And so we took all their information and we kept that during this time. And we had employees that said there was COVID money or something given out that they were promised, they were told they were going to get, and they've never seen a cent of it. And they want to know where that went to. After the last board meeting, I was disappointed in the election, mostly because I felt like there were some really awesome candidates. And I felt like it would be a conflict of interest for who was appointed, since his spouse is working directly in the department that reflects our item 1 on our petition. And I felt like that was a conflict of interest. And so I left that night early. I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling well. I went home, and the next morning, starting at 7:30, I started getting calls from people that we have not had any connection with before. And it went all day long. And they weren't just like Republicans or Democrats. It was everybody calling me. They felt that wasn't a good decision to make either. When you knew that there was a problem there, you know, putting someone in that position wasn't a good ideal. It wasn't the right decision to make. But I want to thank you for that, because they got with me. They helped me set up a nonprofit. We are taking funds. We've already took pledges, and now once the nonprofit's done, we're taking funds, and we plan on investigating these allegations and the fact of this funding that's gone missing.
Over time. So can you wrap
Okay.
up really quickly?
Okay, so I know that you guys have probably already made your decision, but I want to remind you that even if you don't make the decision we want, there's election next year, and everybody's watching you guys right now. So they have made it how they've let you know what they want, and I hope you vote accordingly.
Thank you, Sherry. Next up, we have Audrey Stepp.
My name is Audrey Stepp. I live at 34399 Garut Road, Cottage Grove. I'm here to speak about my payroll issues. This is my third year as a South Lane teacher. September of 2022, I discovered that the district hadn't been making contributions to my PERS accounts. I first contacted a representative from PERS and was told the following: that the money had been sent from South Lane, but the accompanying report from payroll had significant errors, and therefore the money couldn't be deposited. I found a similar issue with my VEBA funds not being deposited in a timely manner. When I contacted the company, I was told that the funds couldn't be deposited because the report from payroll had too many errors. When I contacted the appropriate staff at the district office to share my findings, I was met with either no response or a dismissive response. Due to the lack of confidence I have in the payroll department, every month I check my pay stub and all of my accounts for errors. Here are the continued problems that I've documented this year. The W-4 I completed last March was lost and the correct deductions weren't made for the months of May through September 2023. This resulted in a larger tax bill than I was expecting. Where is the accountability? Who is responsible? My VIBA funds have been deposited between 12 and 21 days late every month since September of 2023, each of which is a violation of the contract. Again, I was told the amount of money sent by the district didn't match the report also sent by the district. Just like many South Lane employees, I recently discovered that my PERS hadn't been deposited for the months of October, November, and December 2023. When I inquired about this at the district level, I was met with less than helpful responses. We did receive a blanket email stating that our PERS for those months should be deposited by February 29th. I'm still missing the October PERS payment. Where is the accountability and who is responsible? The most helpful communication was sent out by Brian McCaslin Friday, March 1st. It is my belief that it was only sent because the union has placed pressure on the district to take responsibility for these issues. We shouldn't be experiencing these issues month after month and year after year. I should be able to trust that the people in charge of payroll and finance can effectively do their jobs, but that trust has been broken and the union is demanding action. Thank you.
Next up, we have Stacy Campbell. Please come up.
Hi, can you hear me? My name is Stacy Campbell. I live at see if I can remember it. 75872 Mosby Creek Road in Cottage Grove. And I have to tell you, yes, I'm really nervous. So if I throw up, it's okay. I'll just keep talking. Okay. So first of all, I want to thank the members that I see here that have been in the schools and showing your faces and doing things. That's really good. It's really good. Because I feel like I'm an educational assistant, 24 years. And it's really good for the kids to see, parents to see. And anyway, I want to thank you for that. So yes, I'm here to talk about payroll. I'm sure you're all really tired of it. But I can tell you, I have had many, 20, 30 classified people come to me and say, well, yeah, my paycheck was just short $50. Or no, it was just short 120. But you know, I don't really want to say anything because I need this job and I don't want to do that. Are we talking hundreds of people here? That is really sad. That is stealing these people's money that work so hard. I know I work really hard. And I have had 4 paychecks that have been incorrect in my 24 years. And they've happened in the last 2 years. From being charged an extra $150 to one check was over $700. So yeah, I had to come down here and say, I need my money. Oh, I don't think that's right. I said, would you look it up? Okay, I guess I'll look it up. Okay, I will write you a check. That's really sad. When I started this job, I started it because I wanted to give these children a voice. Because I feel there are so many kids in this district that need somebody like me that will help them. And now it's gotten to this long because I guess I am in the district enough. So I have classified come to me and say, would you say something? So that's what I'm doing. This has got to stop. I mean, sure, things have been fixed. and we get emails. But I'll be honest with you. Those emails to me are, oops, I'm sorry, we did it again. We'll try and fix it. And when these people are getting their money turned into, say, your IAP or your VIBA or any of these other things, those are working on stocks and bonds. And when you replace that money in there, sure, maybe you're lucky and the bond went down and you didn't lose money, but maybe it did go up. Is there an accounting for the money, the interest money that they're not getting? I think that would be impossible to fix. So anyway, that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Ruby Davy.
I wasn't emotional. I am now. So I'm gonna try. I'm feeling a little teary-eyed. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm both to the board and to the community members. I do not live in South Lane School District, but I am a committed teacher here in the district. I've worked my entire career, even though I live in Eugene. Lots of reasons for me to work where I live, but I love this district and I've been at Harrison Elementary for all 7 years. I thought I came forward to speak tonight. This is only my second time speaking at a board meeting. Once was back in 2020, back in the day. But I thought I needed to share my perspective and how the last few years have impacted my own well-being. So my story starts in June of 2022, I think. My HSA deposits, I had asked for to make sure that I was increasing my HSA deposit, my health savings account, wanted to make sure that I got 3 times that amount taken out during the summer so that, you know, it matched what I normally get taken out monthly. I got 9 times taken out of my check. And I basically had no summer check and I panicked because I was about, sorry, I'm getting emotional. I was about to leave the state and I didn't get my direct deposit. I had to drive down. I was supposed to find the time to drive from Eugene down here to get my check during work hours when I had a kid. And it was just a lot. It did get fixed. But then when I came back in the fall, everything just was exponentially worse. It wasn't just me. I heard about so many colleagues and friends and coworkers who had gotten paid when they hadn't been at work at 2 months and now had to figure out they had been calling the district and trying to not get paid anymore because they're not there. Or people who didn't get a paycheck or people who owed money. It just went on and on. The issues became so severe that at my building, I had friends, coworkers, and people that I didn't even really know that well approaching me in the hallway, calling me, sending me emails, asking for help because they thought maybe I could help them because I knew the contract and I talk a lot. So I tried to help them. It wasn't my job. This is not my role. I'm not in charge of money. I've never had to spend time. I've never had any concerns at any job to have to go through my paycheck with a fine-tooth comb, let alone the paychecks of my coworkers. I, along with a couple other coworkers, we came together, we created a document with hyperlinks to help people figure out how to access these different accounts, how to get this information together, how to help them read their own paychecks, because we had been asking for that information from the district and getting disjointed, late replies to emails, and we could never find all the information in one place. So we made it ourselves and we shared it. We shared it with anyone who wanted it. And we made it easily accessible. And that took countless hours. And, you know, I may have started the idea, but it was a bunch of people came together and made it happen. I would have never thought that I needed to update that document this year. But we did. We're working on it right now because we're running into the same problems and the same excuses. And, you know, out of every 10 mistakes, we maybe get one apology, but these have real impacts on our lives. And the stress is hard to walk into a job that takes everything. It takes everything to be there for these kids and to know that you like, are my bills going to bounce because our paycheck's not going to get on time? Are we going to lose EAs because it's not worth it to them to come support our kids when they aren't being paid competitively with other districts and they're not even getting their pay sometimes? We're tired of being ignored. We're tired of the mistakes. We want actual genuine change. We want to not have to worry about our pay and our future retirement. Why has it taken so long to get all this stuff happening, and why does it keep happening? How many times does an email need to be sent before we actually get a reply or real answers or real change? Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have Lisa Sherman.
Hi, I'm Lisa Sherman. Thank you for listening to me today. I'm a special education teacher at Lincoln Middle School, and I've worked in South Lane for most of my 30-year career. I'm here to discuss the ongoing widespread errors to pay and benefits. Last school year, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the district to address and solve significant payroll errors identified in the 22-23 school year. And because of this MOU, many of us thought we no longer needed to audit our payroll so carefully, and we were wrong. This January, I began hearing a lot of reports about continued payroll errors, and I checked my own PERS account and found out that the district had underreported my salary by 20%. I emailed payroll on February 12th and was told they would get back to me. It's been 21 days. I've not had any communication. In addition, staff in my building have been reporting the following errors to me this pay period. People not receiving their stipends for the second month in a row. Funds deducted from teachers' paychecks not being deposited to their 403B accounts. One member who has deducted $1,500 every month from their check has not had any deposits since June. Another since December. A new teacher was paid at an incorrect and lower pay rate and also shorted hours. Another teacher's HSA has not been funded in the district for 2 years, and they now have medical debt. At least 5 teachers have reported being docked personal pay and sick days for the same absences. 9 teachers have had no PERS contributions since September of 2023. And there may be more, but many of us haven't had our online account set up yet. A teacher who has taught in my district for 10 years was told by PERS there's no record of her being employed in South Lane School District this year. This isn't a comprehensive list. Before last school year, it was not necessary to audit our pay stubs every month to ensure our pay was accurate, that our deductions were being correct and deposited, and that contracted benefits were being provided. To audit our paycheck, we have to visit 5 websites. We have to have different passwords for each one, cross-reference that information with our pay stub. I'm not a forensic accountant, and I shouldn't have to be. Being paid accurately and on time is an expectation of employees in this country and a responsibility of our district. When I contacted PERS about my retirement account, they responded they were very aware of the situation in South Lane. New employees and substitutes have told me that our district now has a reputation for payroll issues. Other staff have informed me that our payroll issues have also come up at regional events. In an era of staffing shortages and our district can't afford to have this reputation. Throughout my career, I have supervised and mentored many new and aspiring educators, and I've encouraged them to come and work here. I can't do that in good conscience right now. We've lost trust in our system. We want transparency and accountability, and we want it now.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sarah Jones.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Jones. I reside at 1127 Riverfront Way in Cottage Grove, and I'm an 18-year teacher, 15 in South Lane. And I too would like to address some payroll concerns within the district. I had my child in November of 2021 and had taken unpaid leave during that school year. it was continued to be taken out of my check when I returned full-time, causing a debt of around $1,200 a month, which was eventually retroactively paid several months after I called the attention to the district. Last year and continuing this year, the deduction for my childcare account is routinely taken from my check, but never deposited into my childcare account so I can pay my childcare bill each month. Currently, that is missing a total of $1,000 this year. Last year, when it was eventually fixed, the deposit happened so many times that I was actually in IRS trouble because it was over the $5,000 that you're allowed each year. So then I had to work to get that money taken back out of that account. This isn't all of the trouble that we've all had with PERS and our other accounts. This is just the ones that I am recalling right now. We have to fill out multiple forms. There's Google Forms. Some of them are monthly. Now there's a new one that we're supposed to be using. So you're not sure ever what was counted, what wasn't counted, what's being responded to, and what is still being worked on currently. So you're just kind of like constantly having to go back through your email, find an old email and resend it, forward it and say, just checking in again, just checking in again. Often you'll hear back, I'll check in with them again on Monday, but then you never hear a reply even that week. Sometimes I was supposed to have a reply on February 26th that I still have not heard about why my $500 for each month is not in my childcare account. It's frustrating. This is not anything that we've ever had to deal with before, as you've heard from multiple other members. And I'm hoping there can be some action and some ways that we can get this fixed and solved so we don't have to continue to do this. And we don't have to continue to meet with new employees month after month to check their checks for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last up for this evening, we have Bonnie Sano.
I didn't come prepared to talk about teachers' finances. However, I really applaud these teachers. I've sat in a couple of classrooms at Harrison and they do an awesome job. My name is Bonnie Sano. And I do live in the South Lane School District. I came prepared to talk about words. Words are important. Words mean something. But in recent years in the South Lane County, Oregon, new terms have been introduced, and the meaning of many traditional terms have been totally changed. The truth has been exchanged for lies. Let's start with the school slogan that used to be up on the walls here. Diversity, inclusion, and equity. I'm well acquainted with diversity firsthand. My family and relatives are very ethnically and racially diverse. My kids are biracial. I was married in the Deep South, and my Asian mother-in-law was more of a mother to me than my biological mother. I've lived in the Midwest, the Deep South, and the Southwest. I've lived in Europe and been very involved with Israel and Jewish culture, although I'm not even Jewish. Throughout my life, my closest girl and women friends, other than my daughter, have included a Native American, a Caribbean, a Chinese, and a Dane from Denmark. My father taught in a Black school. Many of my heroes and heroines today are either Black or Indian from India. My family and relatives are also very economically diverse, from the very poor to the rather wealthy. I know what it is like to be homeless for short periods of time. I know what it's like to be shuttled from one family to another, what it's like to be bullied and to be culturally
discriminated against by real white supremacists. I even remember what it was like to be emotionally and physically abused as a middle schooler. Yes, I know a bit about diversity. Been there, done that. But the diversity that you are promoting isn't cultural, racial, or economic. It's a diversity of values. The Judeo-Christian values that this country was founded on are out. The traditional values of marriage, family, and country, of hard work, honesty, and integrity, of boys and girls are all obsolete. Instead, a new leftist political ideology is now being promoted as the psychosocial norm. Cottage Grove and South Lane County are being tested. If this ideology can be accepted here, then in all of Oregon, as well as the rest of the country. South Lane School District is heavily involved in this transition. We have been exchanging the truth for lies. It's top-down control that doesn't represent the majority of teachers, parents, and citizens who pay for our public schools, either directly or indirectly with our tax dollars. Is this why you've had so many parents pulling their kids out of the public schools? Is this why you've had?
Ron, we're over time. Can you wrap up, please?
I have two more sections. Is this why you've often had overflow crowds at these board meetings, vainly trying to protest your actions? Then there is inclusion. Who exactly is being included and who is being excluded? At the end of the last school year, one brave student testified to you about what life was like for him as a formerly mainstream
Bonnie,
student.
I'm gonna have to stop you there. Could you please submit the rest in writing?
No, I want to continue.
I'm sorry.
Did
We have
his
a time
words
limit.
fall on deaf ears?
Everybody the same.
Has the psychosocial environment changed for him
Excuse
and
me,
others
please,
like him? Lastly, there is the word equity. It is used in place of equality. But equity, but the meaning of equality, but equity is not the same as equality. Equality has to do with equal opportunity. Equity has to do with equal outcomes. Is this why the learning stats that you reviewed last month at this public meeting were so poor? Yes, this school board has exchanged the truth for lies in so many ways. As a mere citizen, I submit a vote of no confidence.
And I let her speak over as well. I gave everybody the same treatment. I did. Okay. Next up, we have our student representative reports.
So we had a lot of sports recently. We have one of our wrestlers here where they were able to, we had about, let me check the paper again. We had about 6 wrestlers going to championships. All right. Yeah, look at them. Get on them. Yeah. Got it. Then we also had a great handful of swimmers also go into this. Good on them too. I mean, really, we are doing great sport-wise, you know. Boys basketball had a great season as well. And as maybe some of you have heard, girls basketball is currently in the championships going up against Astoria. Actually, they went up against them this weekend, correct? No? Well, I do know they are going into the championships. And great news too. Cottage Grove girls team is tied for first with Astoria and CSAT for highest GPA of a team, 3.87. So
Our drama department at the Cottage Grove High School just opened our show of She Kills Monsters, and we're both in it. And so you guys should definitely all come and see it and support the Dramatic Lions. And the music department is gonna go to Clackamas, which is a jazz music festival / competition on March 15th. And that's really cool for them because they get to learn and spend time with professional musicians, which is like their favorite part of the whole year. And then we've got our Lion Pride pageant, which is with the Children's Miracle Network. It raises money for babies in the NICU, and it's a really exciting part of our high school culture. And actually coming up on March 13th, we've got a fundraiser at LTAP. It's from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. and 15% of each bill goes to the Children's Miracle Network. And then FBLA, our Future Business Leaders of America, they have their State Business Leadership Conference on April 4th and 5th. And 23 high school students are competing in business topics. And that's a pretty good number for FBLA. They're having a lot of fun. Yeah, and then we've also, you want to say some things?
We also had our MECHA group go to the U of O to further, envelop themselves in a culture. And speaking to MECHA, they all agree that it has brought them something that they wish upon more people who join FBLA to really, MECHA, sorry, to really dig into their culture and who they are. There was also with NASA, the Native American Student Association, had a BIPOC meeting, same with at the U of O. And it enveloped them in traditional Native music, and also, again, as in MECHA, gave them more insight into their culture and who they are, and to be proud of who they are. And that's it, right? And that's about it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
The dates and time of the play so that we can put that.
Yes, for the play. We run two more nights on Friday and Saturday, the 8th and the 9th at 7:30 p.m. In the high school cafetorium. And it's $5 for students and $10 for adults.
Did you say Tapatio, March 13th?
Yes, for Lion Pride. No, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
4 to 9.
Yeah.
Cool. I went to Lions Pride last year and I really liked it. My nephew took grand prize. I still liked it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. If you haven't gone, everybody's gone.
All right, anyone for the OSEA report this evening? Okay, Emily for SLEA.
It's working okay. Hi, I'm Emily Quindry, the president of the South Lane Education Association, representing our teachers and certified staff members. We've heard some really eloquent speakers already, so I'm going to be direct and blunt this evening. In December, teachers were warned that when the new payroll system went live, there might be a few discrepancies to fix. Payroll department errors started coming to me in late January, and members began to email their issues as directed, but with little follow-up, and many received no responses whatsoever. Yet SLEA was not notified by the district. We were only notified by teachers of the errors and problems. Then at the February payroll, there were even more errors, and only when we reached out to the district and demanded to reinstate the tracking system that was dropped this school year, we were informed of over 58 mistakes that have been documented. This is unacceptable. Where is the accountability, and where is the transparency, and where is the honesty? If you were told as board members that there were minimal errors, then that person lied to you. We will not tolerate a repeat of what happened 18 months ago. If you need a reminder, it was 7 months of continual payroll errors totaling over $1 million in mistakes just for teachers. It was a payroll disaster, yet this board remained silent and did nothing. In fact, no one was even fired, and here we are again. If a teacher showed such gross negligence, they would be fired. Why has this not happened? I could go into the list of negative impacts this has on our district, employees, and students, but for now, I will leave that for you to contemplate. Ultimately, this crisis is at the foot of the acting superintendent. She did not work with us last time despite 3 legal grievances being filed, and currently she is not working with us. Thank you to Brian McCaslin, who has stepped in to create an action plan with immediate steps to fix these errors. He has reached out to the union for our support in this endeavor, and we are hoping this will work, but union leadership remains leery. Our union members are even more leery, which means district leadership will need to show proof of every repair in order for teachers to believe any promises made. I hope when I'm here next month, my report will be different.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, point of order, the time frame that Emily was talking about, just to reiterate, I think I did at a meeting prior. Mr. Tucker and myself were not on the board at that time. We are here now, as well as Mr. Gowling, we are here now.
Okay, next up, we have the Family Resource Center update.
Good evening, board. Slightly different tone, just different change of pace. We're here to talk about, first of all, early learning and family resources. For those that don't know, includes the following program: our Family Resource Center, Peggy's Primary Connection, our community care specialist located in each school, a language support team who are interpreter and translators, and Little Lions Early Childhood Development Center. When I talk about our programs, I think I've talked about it here before, I refer to them as a two-way arrow. We reach out into the community and the community reaches to us. There has never been a more fitting example of that two-way arrow in action than during the recent ice storm. And that's what we're here to talk about today. By the way, I'm Heather Murphy. I am your Early Learning and Family Resources Administrator.
And I'm Sarah Canales. I'm the Early Learning Family Resources Supervisor.
As soon as the storm hit and we were able to communicate, I was contacted by Disaster Relief Services through the Department of Human Resources, because they are in fact members of our soup group, which has over 170 people on our mailing list. We actually had our monthly soup meeting earlier today. They're a new organization within the Department of Human Services, and they reached out to us to say, what do children and families need? What can we provide to you? They had a point of contact and we had one with them. They were personing the relief center, which was staffed by a combination of the Red Cross, the DHS Disaster Relief, and Lane County staff. They asked our needs and we communicated several times a day for close to 3 weeks. And they responded directly in a variety of ways, and we'll talk about those. We proactively reached out to families and began sharing resources amongst our network. Food and shelter were the first 2 big needs. New Hope Baptist Church in Cresswell and Cottage Grove City Hall were the sites of the first warming centers. Within a few days, those operations in Cottage Grove were moved to the community center, where Red Cross set up beds, food, and a shower trailer in partnership with the city and disaster relief partners. I was called, I believe, Saturday late in the afternoon by the Red Cross, who reached out with a delivery of a semi truck full of firewood that was on the way. They needed a place and volunteers to deliver on Sunday, and we coordinated that effort. The Elks Lodge was the site. They were wonderful to work with. It was immediate. We put a message on social media Saturday evening, I would say, and our team worked alongside community members from Be Your Best, the Cottage Grove High School football team, the Presbyterian Church, the Cottage Grove Rotary Club, and the Elks Lodge provided bathrooms and warm coffee. In 3 hours, we distributed the wood. We don't have a picture of it, but was a huge semi truck full. And in 3 hours, we had people in and out, and we delivered some to Dorena School for people that couldn't get down.
Once it was safe to do so, our team began delivering various items to our community. Our team includes community care specialists, family support specialists, language support, and Heather and myself. We delivered over 156 food boxes that were provided through the Red Cross to families who couldn't make it to the warming shelter. We also delivered 124 hot meals directly to families, and 8 pallets of water to families as well. This is just numbers of what we delivered, but we were able to connect families that were able to make it into the warming center or pick up the food box from the Red Cross so that they could get those items. In addition to that, our community care specialists have in their offices, they have a pantry with basic items like hygiene, non-perishables, diapers, formula, and they were able to distribute that to our community as well. Our Little Lions team also had extra formula and diapers, and we were able to get that to families as well. In addition, our team also helped our community members connect to resources like SNAP replacement for those who lost food during the ice storm, and also flex funds that were provided through the community care organizations, which are Pacific Source and Trillium in our community.
As a side note, so each night our teams were in and out of the warming center. It should also be noted that not only were these parents and children, but they were also community members, members of South Lane School District staff that were standing in long lines for food boxes, showers, warm beds, etc. So just to put that in perspective. Following all of the deliveries, funders began to come to us. The Lane Health Council and Oregon Community Foundation both reached out to me directly saying the exact same thing. We trust that if we send money to you, it's going to get to the places that it needs to go. So to point out that those networks that we've built in and we've invested in here that were originally part of the Student Investment Act process, wraparound services for families, early childhood programming, that has all contributed to this wonderful networking effort that allowed people to call us and infuse our community with necessary items in that time. We have restocked our pantries, added heaters, blankets, flashlight, lanterns, batteries, toiletries, tarps that have been both delivered and stored for what we hope never comes up again, but just in case for that next disaster. Looking ahead, we kept a spreadsheet that identified partnerships and gaps. We were able to identify some that existed for families. One example, transportation for families isolated way up in Dorina and London who could not communicate in that time or get to relief services. I reached out to Lane Transit District and South Lane Wheels. LTD identified several possibilities that will be in place for the next time families need to be transported into town to stay warm and eat. We worked with a huge number of community partners in this time that need to be recognized. Those included Samantha Duncan and Be Your Best, the City of Cottage Grove, Faye Stewart and Mike Cummings, South Lane School District Maintenance Team, United Way, Community Sharing, Walmart, Karen Munsell, South Lane School District Administrators, Cottage Grove Rotary Club, Lane Transit District, and South Lane Wheels. It is appropriately classified Appreciation Week this week, and we would like to recognize our team of community care specialists, language support specialists, family support specialists, and Little Lion staff in their efforts to provide relief to children and families under extraordinary circumstances. So we have some in the room. We applaud you. Thank you. And for those that we can't see online who are joining us online, thank you so very much. And that is not that is not a fully inclusive group. So please, all of those that were out there beating the streets and helping people get what they need, we applaud you. And now we're happy to answer any questions.
Heather, I've never met you, but thanks for what you did. I've heard a lot about you from Karen.
Oh,
Karen
thank
Munsell,
you. Great.
a good friend of Karen's, and
We mentioned Karen.
yeah, you did. That's why I mentioned it back. Yeah, what a go-getter, and you sound like one too. I had those pistachios that came in those food boxes.
Great.
Somebody had them and was allergic to nuts and handed them over to me we traded. I did at the last meeting ask the superintendent to thank you next time she saw you.
She did indeed. Thank you.
And thank the supporters or the donors from the Roseburg area, the folks down there.
Mhm.
They came through. It's nice to know that you probably spent years building these networks,
Mhm.
and that's valuable. And it sounds like we all feel better about next time. It's
Yeah.
coming. It's going to come. There's no denying it. And you said you
concerted
restocked.
effort looking at that.
Right,
So
and
thank you.
it's neat to see people coming from the outside that are willing to hand you money and just hand you money and know that you'll be take care of the money. Like, that's just warms my heart to know that we have people here that we can count on to do that. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I don't think we mentioned that those food boxes came from as far away as Ashland and Salem every day during that time that people needed them, both warm and incredible, very robust food boxes that can last for the non-perishable for 3 to 6 months.
I saw some of those. Karen showed me some of those and she was down there with the firewood with you guys and
Yep.
shared those stories about how successful that was. And that was an entire flatbed. And then you had some volunteers, neighbors coming down from Dorena to grab an extra load for their neighbors, spending their gas money and
We had
So-
some volunteers deliver up there. So
totally successful and
Yeah.
hope we don't have to do it again, but we will.
thank you.
I know, I mean, I live in town and communication was a problem, so what ideas are you folks batting around for the people who live out in London and doing that? Keeping them in touch with,
So there actually is, there was at one of the first Be Your Best meetings right after that incident, we talked about several ways that both neighborhoods, should we be without communication again? That's going to be an ongoing conversation. What we're talking about were from the times that we could start communicating, our team was texting. And then doing outreach to families, recognizing that sometimes they couldn't get them. I mean, some people were going to their doors to make sure that they had heat and light and flashlights and those things. So it was an all hands on deck effort, but there are ideas and of course, things that we would learn from other areas, and we'll continue the conversation because we need to. We all learned a big lesson. So thank you.
You guys talked, you had a soup meeting? It may be a dumb question. Do you guys have soup?
We actually do. No, that's great. It is not an acronym. It started as a small meeting of community partners where we provided soup years ago before I was here. And it's grown to now a very large meeting and it's a hybrid format, but we actually do provide soup and bread and it's delicious. And you are welcome. Anybody is welcome.
Thank
So
you.
if you ever want to come and see, we invite you. Yeah, we had our new city manager presenting today. So we always have a speaker and updates from all of the partners online. So it is a wonderful tool. Yeah. It was
Thank
incredible.
you for asking that question because I wrote down soup in all caps.
Yes. we
And I
did
was gonna
too.
ask later what the acronym was. Now I can just go there. Don't have to do that. Thank you.
It's soup. We get that a lot.
it would be nice to have a high school.
I think that's a great idea. Absolute invitation.
All right, well, thanks so much. And I
Thank
just,
you.
I kind of want to emphasize that not only was this a great effort, but the work you've done in the past really laid the foundation to be able to do this as quickly and effectively as you were. And thank you
Thanks
both.
very much.
Okay, and now we're moving on to the superintendent update, which Brian is taking this month.
All right, so you have to give me a little slack. This is, I think, my second superintendent update, you know. Nothing I have said counted because my mic wasn't on. Yeah, sure it did. So first, I just wanted to thank you all for your participation in the work session last week. While I'm not one that enjoys sharing what animal I am, never have, never will. I think it was well done and I thought it was a productive time for the group, but also for me. I think I learned something. I learned a lot of things as well. I wanted to jump. I have several things, but I'm going to want to jump down to the payroll issues that were brought up. I sent out an email on Friday afternoon, and one of the folks that asked, that was talking, wondered why I did that, and I wanted to let you know and let them know why I did that. I've been in this district for 25, going on 26 years, and I know and respect most of the people. I respect all of the people, but I don't know all of the people, okay? But so many people I have worked with that were in the room and those that still are in the room that we've intersected in different projects and things over the years. And that is why, like, if there's one person in the district that's stressed and there's something that we can do, I can do to alleviate that, that's not my job. That's the human part of me. And it's my job, right? So that is why I sent an email. No, well, I think you'll understand what I meant. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that I talked about is I'm going to, just in case you didn't have a chance to read the letter, I'm going to go over a couple things that I said in it. However, I'm not answering some of the questions that they brought up, some of the specific individual questions that need to be answered. Of those issues that are still out there, they need to be resolved, and they'll be resolved quickly. Because that's what they deserve. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that as I talk through this. So first of all, the PERS postings. Not only did I talk with folks here last week, but I also spent some time talking with PERS today, making sure that there's no, even though we've done things differently this year that has been inconvenient and that has been confusing, and it's PERS has not been posted on a regular basis, that it is not going to damage long-term individual employees. And I was assured by PERS that it would not. So all of the changes that we're still in the process of making should not damage individuals and their PERS accounts. Several folks talked about PERS accounts, and so some of the things that you heard are that their pay wasn't accounted for. They didn't show how much they'd earned, or they had missing months according to PERS. Those are all things that I understand why they are, and that the solution that we are putting into place now will resolve. And so those parts of the concern are being addressed and should be completely addressed in the coming couple weeks. That's the PERS postings. The HSA and the VEBA, again, not talking about the individuals that had specific things happening to their account. Widespread deposits were made later this time. And I have a meeting tomorrow with the HSA, our HSA, the folks that do our HSA to American Fidelity, to talk about that and why that's happening and what we can do to remedy that. I believe it's on their end, but regardless, there must be something that we can do. And so we're working on that. Again, that doesn't speak to the individual issues, though. Individual issues have to be resolved one by one and resolved in a way that won't happen again. Incorrect sick and personal leave balance. This was an error made on our part as we transitioned from one system to the other. One of our staff members immediately owned that and said, "Oh gosh, I got to fix that," and they did. When someone said that there were sick leave and personal leave taken out of their account, and that was incorrect, and that was our error, but that's been resolved. Payday, you didn't hear any comments about payday, but I did. I have over the past week. Our payday calendar was incorrect and misleading, but we did payday right. Like we paid folks on the day that we say we would in the contract. We paid it on the 23rd. We put it in the bank on the 23rd, which is 2 days before the 25th, which is what's required. So that part of it was correct, that there was it was the payroll calendar that was using some old language we used long ago, and that was misleading. And then again, there's individual issues that need to be resolved. I'm working with staff closely this week. I met with both associations, and I've communicated with both associations fairly regularly over the past week to work on this as partners, and to make sure that they know, being transparent and making sure they know what we're doing. We will meet later this week with both associations. I will meet later this week with both associations to make sure that the documents that we produce that we're going to use to fix all of these errors are transparent to them, and that they can see what we're working on. Because it breaks my heart to know that there's a lack of trust. And we will repair that. So that's what I have to say about those things. And I'll give you more information, and I'll update you more next month or throughout the month. So I wanted to report to you on the students. Of the year. It is for a couple of reasons. One is we're talking about really what we're looking for. So we spent time with awesome students, with some parents, awesome parents, with some awesome staff members, and some awesome administrators. And first looked at, had an update of the programs. What are we working on to meet our goals? What's happening across our district? And so we talked to the group about that and had some presentations for them. And then we showed the data that we have at our fingertips now and talked about, okay, what's the connection? So if we have these great things going on, is it affecting our reading scores? Is it affecting our math scores? Is it affecting our youth truth data? Is it affecting our 9th grade on track data? Is it affecting our graduation rate? And really had those conversations, which were great. And then at the end of that session, we were able to give time for everyone there to ask, what questions would you ask students about what we've learned today? Because what we know about data is we can look at data and it tells us what the problem, like what the problem area is, but it doesn't tell you why. You'll never learn why by learning that only 43% of students at a particular grade level are meeting benchmarks. You'll never know why by looking at that, no matter how much you break it down. The only way you know why is by going and talking, whether it's talking to teachers, talking to families, or talking to students. And so we spent time coming up with questions that administrators and others in the buildings will ask students about when it comes to those different pieces of data that I mentioned. So that was pretty valuable. It was a lot of fun. And we'll do it again in June. So that's 3 times a year. And I think, like, unless everyone's lying to you, which I don't think they are, everyone really enjoys them because it's useful. We're hearing about what's going on, and then they're getting a voice. So it's a pretty cool process. Next month, I wanted to show you some of those questions and make sure I show you some of the data that you're missing. So you haven't seen, you've seen the graduation rate, but you haven't seen the youth truth data. You need to see that in a little bit deeper way. But also I want to show you the 9th grade on track data and also our benchmark in reading and math data. So, and then I can share with you maybe a few of the questions that the students and others came up with that I think you'd enjoy. So I'll do that next month. CTE, tomorrow in the room down the hall, I'm really excited. We're having 5 industry partners come in and talk to all of our CTE teachers about what evaluation looks like in the workplace, and trying to really make sure that the way we're evaluating in those courses, in those CTE courses, mirrors what's happening in the workplace. And so they're bringing in forms that they use for evaluation and other tools that they use for evaluation. And we're going to talk to them for a couple of hours tomorrow morning. So really excited about that. Really making that real world, which is always what we're trying to do. I mean, we do a lot to connect kiddos to their career, from job shadows to internships to guest speakers and all of that. But this is just one more thing that we could do district-wide, both at Kennedy and Cottage Grove High School, to help really make that a even more meaningful experience. So we're excited about that. Semesters, we talked to you that we're transitioning to semesters next year. We're continuing to prepare for that. As you'll recall, we let staff know in January that we were going in that direction. We gave them some information. We then gave a survey to family and families and staff, and got a whole handful, a bunch of responses on that. And then we formed a committee that looked at those responses, and with those responses and what they knew about the schools that they work in, helped to formulate a recommendation to our district administrator group, our cabinet. And that's what we're looking at now. And then we'll put out a communication probably within the next couple of weeks of what our draft plan is and our draft calendar for next year. And we'll include you on that. And then after any input that we get on that, we'll bring that to you for your approval next month in April. Usually one of your duties is to approve the calendar. And so that will come to you likely. Well, sometimes we even do it in March, but this year we're going to, because I wanted to make sure we got through all these steps, but not yet. Breaks come up. Not yet. And then I think the last thing I would say is I think we're going to talk bargaining later, but I just appreciate I appreciate both associations because I've talked to both of them a lot this week, but I appreciate at this point with bargaining, I appreciate both bargaining teams both the bargaining team on the district's side and also the bargaining team on of the classified staff, and also all of the folks that are coming to our bargaining sessions that aren't involved in those two groups. So we really appreciate everybody's involvement there. And you'll hear more about that later. And that concludes my report. Okay. You're welcome.
Question?
Sure.
I'm concerned when you say that the contributions not being made timely don't affect the accounts when they're based on the markets. I just want to revisit that.
Yeah, the payments are made. And the money is deposited with PERS.
Okay.
What's not done is they don't see it in their individual account.
Okay.
Because there's some work that we have to do to make sure that all of the account, everything that we send them is matching what PERS has.
Okay.
And no month ever matches. You always have to do some work to make sure they match. And so sometimes that takes a little longer. This year, we did not do that every month, every other month. We did it less often than that. And in the future, we'll do that at least every other month. So 2 months won't go by without members being able to see, employees being able to see the PERS in their account. So, but we want to get to the point where they're not even looking at their accounts because they just trust that we're putting in there, but that's not where we're at.
The other question I had was the communication. We heard from several teachers and staff that there was no communication or that they had sent. I wrote it all down. I'm not going to go back, but I heard from several of them that there was no communication.
That's what they said.
That's what they said.
And
are you aware of any of that, or can we look into that?
Like I said before, we are working on this and I am leading the charge.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not going to talk specifically about any of those cases or about any of our particular staff members, but I can tell you that every issue needs to be answered and needs to be resolved in a timely fashion.
Okay. I expect at least hey, we're working on it, something. One of them stated weeks and nothing, 11 days, nothing. The other one, let's see. And then can we get the youth truth data at the next meeting before the superintendent?
I said that.
You said at the next meeting. I
April.
just wanted to make sure.
It'll be in April. That's your next regular scheduled meeting.
We have a work session on the 18th of March.
That's an executive session, right?
Yeah, that's the evaluation, right?
If you want me to do it, then I'll do it when you ask me to. I have a scheduled for next.
I'd like to have that information
Next
before I come into a meeting to discuss an evaluation. And I think
that's
that
up to you folks.
I
You
think
just
that
let me know
question
when
was
you want me to-
asked at a prior meeting, why we didn't receive that information prior to an evaluation. I recall another member asking that.
Yeah, I'll leave to the board to decide. You let me know when you want me to present it to you. I'll be ready to do it.
Okay. We can talk about that.
That's all I have.
Anybody else? Questions for Brian?
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, moving on to the business office update.
Thank you. I have this wee voice anyway, so thank you so much. All right. So we're going to share some information concerning the payroll issues that we have had, especially in February, and some of them certainly have carried over from January into February. The piece that I would like to share with you this evening is about the leave balances. That is something that our team, our HR team, was responsible as we were setting up visions in our new system. It was a checkbox that was incorrectly checked, and it caused double deductions. So if you had sick leave, the intention was that it would be set up that if you're out of sick leave, then it'll roll in and take your personal leave or other leave that could be applied in place of that. And it was the wrong box checked. So it did it all. And so we, first thing that we did when I found out that this was happening,
and we found out right away. We just unclicked that darn little box, and that stopped it from continuing to happen. And then as we after we took care of that rogue box, then we downloaded all of those files. It only impacted anybody who took leave in February. If they hadn't taken leave, they weren't impacted by it. So we downloaded all of the information, the leave information for people who had taken leave. And so our first concern was to see if any of it put somebody into unpaid leave because they were out of, or unpaid status because they were out of leave. We didn't have anybody that was in that situation. So that was our very first concern. After that, then we took all of those folks who had lost leave, we took out the correct entries out of our database. And then we uploaded all of the incorrect entries back into the database as adjustments to the positive. And that just automatically in real time shifted all of that leave. And then we've been going through, and I'm almost finished, but we've been verifying for anybody who took leave, anybody who had emailed or put information into our Google form one by one to make sure that their leave was actually reinstated and that it was correct. So we have a few more that, you know, we're finishing up with, but by the end of the day tomorrow, we should have all of those rectified. And
Did it start with human error? Human press the button?
yes, in setting things up, as we were setting things up, the wrong box got checked. And so that issue is corrected and won't happen again.
And that was a box that was checked in a place that it affected all staff.
That had taken.
Anybody who had taken leave, only people who had taken leave really in February. So, and keeping in mind, January, we had not rolled out the leave because of the storm. We didn't have it all in. So this was January, February, but. And then, next slide. Talk about some payroll.
Okay, so in February, and I'm mostly talking about February payroll, we had some additional questions about pay that I'm going to talk about. We had questions about hours reflected on pay stubs, and this question comes up periodically, and it came up last year, and it just comes up now and again. And I'll talk about why that question comes up and the answer to that. We also had questions about employer PERS contributions reflected on paychecks and the new system that is showing differently than in the old system. And I'm going to talk about why that is. And also the process for HSA and HRA VIVA deposits. There was, and I will talk about January and February for those deposits, and then also about 403B contributions. So the questions about pay, for February, we had 5 paychecks that were issued or reissued. One check was lost in the mail, not received by the person. They received a paper check and they didn't receive the check. We voided that check and reissued them a new check. There was one check that was sent direct deposit that the person had canceled or closed their account and didn't notify us in time to make the change to that account. So that the bank sent us that direct deposit back and we reissued this person a new check. There was one that the time card was not received timely, and as soon as we received the time card, we issued that check. There was one person who had leave from December, and it was part of this leave issue that they were deducted leave and shouldn't have, and we reissued that check to them as well. The final check was a confusion regarding the coordination of Paid Leave Oregon and their time about whether they got paid for their time or not. And that was a confusion with the employee and Paid Leave Oregon and our staff.
soon as we found that out, that situation was rectified and that person was issued an additional paycheck. If there were others who had paycheck problems, we're not aware at this time. Another question that came up, and it came up in January and again in February, that for some staff, their net pay changed due to tax withholdings. In January of each year, the federal and state governments update their tax tables. Those tax tables are automatically updated and posted into our payroll system as well as others, everybody's. And based on staff's W-4 withholdings, their federal and state deductions may change. Interestingly, this year, federal tax increased and state tax decreased, which doesn't make a lot of sense. For those people who had those questions, we did check their withholdings. We did let them know that those changes were made and let them know if they wanted to make changes in their paycheck based on the withholdings to complete a new W-4 and turn it in. Regarding hours reflected on pay stubs, the school district pays, the question was, why don't the hours on my pay stub reflect the actual hours I worked? Staff will look at the hours reflected on their pay stub and multiply that by their hourly rate, and it does not match their gross pay. That is correct. It does not match their gross pay. The school district pays on an annualized or averaged basis. And in the sense it treats all staff except for transportation and substitutes as though they were salaried employees. So the system looks at the total number of hours a staff person is expected to work during the year, and it divides that by the number of pays they receive during the year. In the old system, it would take the number of total hours during the year and divide it by pay. So if you worked 183 days and 6 hours a day, it multiplied that. And if you received 10 paychecks during the year, divided that number by 10. And that's a total number of hours reflected on your paycheck every pay period. Some pay periods had more hours and some pay periods had less because no pay period is exactly the same number of days throughout the year. In the new system, it also averages, but it looks at the person's calendar and uses the hours in their calendar. So if they're, so the hours will change because the pay period sometimes has more days in it than others, depending on the person's calendar. There are also in the calendar non-contract days. So those are days that the employee does not get paid. So the bottom line is you can't look at your hours on the paycheck and multiply it by your rate because it's not a per hour basis of pay. It's an averaged or salary basis. When people had those questions, we emailed them explaining this. There was also an all staff email that went out earlier in February explaining this process. Also last year, the same type of email went out explaining the hours and how they're calculated. We also met with individuals who wanted to meet with us. Rita and I met with some, Sherry, our payroll staff, met with others. What we have come up with this is that we do need more professional development in this area to help everyone understand how their hours are reflected on their paycheck. And we are working on how to read and understand your paycheck presentation. It's in the works. That presentation will include everything on your paycheck, including taxes, deductions, withholdings, employer contributions, and pay information. Okay. The next question was about PERS on paychecks, and this centered around two main questions. People were wondering why that the PERS district contribution decreased. On paychecks, there are actually three parts to PERS. One of them is the employee contribution, which is 6% of their gross wages, and that did not change. The two other items on paychecks are district responsibilities. One of those is the PERS, the district, what the district pays into the PERS for each individual's retirement.
And the other is what the district accrues for our PERS bond payments. The district contribution is required by the district to make payments into PERS for the PERS fund for the retirement benefit of all PERS eligible employees. These rates are determined by PERS actuarial consultants. That means that some districts have different rates. Some districts are 8 to 10%, other districts are less, but those are set and determined by PERS. One thing that affects our rate is our side account created when we had the PERS bond. The contribution for that is deposited by PERS into the general pool of funds. So when PERS calculates what our contribution is each year, they determine that based on gross pay that we report on employees. PERS then multiplies that amount by our rate and automatically deducts that amount from our bank. And that amount is put into the general pool of funds. Employees will never see that amount in their individual accounts because it is not an individual contribution to their PERS account. Yes, and one thing that did change is in the old system, the rate that was used was 3.8%, 3.81% of employee gross pay. In January, we reduced that to 3% of gross pay. Again, that does not affect individual accounts. And PERS calculates that amount, and whether it's 3% or 10%, they're going to take that out of our bank. The third amount that was showing on individual checks in the old system was what the district accrues in order to make our PERS bond payments. And we accrue that based on gross payroll, and it's an estimate we make in budgeting so that we can make our PERS bond payments every year. This is not an employee benefit. It is simply an accrual to pay our PERS bond. In the new system, this line item is not showing on employees' paycheck as an employer benefit because it is not a benefit to employees. What we did with follow-up is we have met with individual employees, and we did send an all-staff email with this information, actually more information than this. This is a summary. On February 22nd, I believe this information was sent. We're also in the process of putting together a PERS FAQ that will be posted on our website. We also met with PERS earlier this month, and we are setting up a time for PERS to come out and do a presentation to all of our staff, and where they can ask questions and have a better understanding of how the PERS system works. Yeah. And the other question around PERS was their PERS accounts. They several questions about why they're missing PERS information. One thing that's not on here is PERS does account for things on a calendar basis and not on a school year basis. So sometimes people are looking at their gross pay that they're contracted for during the school district, and that's not what they see in PERS. And that's because PERS is a calendar year. We are required to post and clear employee information in PERS annually. This year, the annual cutoff date is March 5th. In the past, we did that more frequently, and as Brian mentioned, we are going to do that more frequently moving forward. All payroll files for the calendar year 2023 have been uploaded to the PERS website. With a change in staff at both the district and at PERS, correcting suspended files has not been as frequent as it was in the past. Most files were cleared and posted to individuals' account by February 29th, which I believe was last Thursday. The remaining files were worked on today in the joint effort with our payroll staff and with PERS staff, and any additional files will be worked on and completed tomorrow. The process is we upload all employee information, including names, social security numbers, addresses, pays withholding, or PERS withholding, hours worked, and other employee information to the PERS website once a month. PERS works on that file overnight. If there are any files that don't match PERS information, the entire file is suspended if more than 15% of the files don't match PERS information. Some of the kickbacks are the social security number we have on file isn't in PERS. That could be if an employee worked at a previous district, that district hasn't released them from their district, so PERS is not looking for that employer's social security number in our district. It's also possible that it's a retiree that PERS is not showing as active. Those kinds of kickbacks have to be corrected on PERS end. There are other things about hours worked and some minor things that we do fix on this end. That file, then we post overnight. Those errors could be corrected, and as PERS goes through those, they find more inconsistencies that we correct. So it's kind of a circular, ongoing correcting. Again, we've been working directly with PERS on those. We do have a dedicated representative at PERS who is assigned to South Lane School District. We used to have that, and now we have that again. Following up, we've had 2 virtual meetings with PERS to clear files. We have more virtual meetings with them in the works. Again, we have a dedicated PERS representative to work with us, and posting employee files to the PERS website will happen at least every 2 months. And it's not the posting, the payroll files will be posted every month, but making sure they're all cleared through and unsuspended will be completed at least every 2 months. And then HSA, HRA, Viva in January, which we when we switched to our new software, there was an issue with the process. But January payments were processed by check, and files were electronically uploaded to vendors. The 2 vendors we have for this are American Fidelity, which is where the HSA is, and HRA Viva, which is where the Viva payments go. American Fidelity, the check was cashed on February 5th, and it was posted by American Fidelity on February the 15th at 6 p.m. The HRA Viva, the check was cashed by them on January 30th, and I did not confirm the payment posted date, but I believe it was on either the 14th or 15th of February. They should be done sooner than that. And I'm not sure what the issue was, although the files were uploaded timely. And the checks were cashed timely. February payments, the payments were completed via ACH, which is direct deposit, and files again were electronically uploaded to both vendors. For American Fidelity and the HSA accounts, the transfer was, or all American Fidelity accounts, the ACH was completed on February 29th, which was Thursday. And American Fidelity let us know that payments should post within 2 to 4 working days after receipt of funds in the file. HRA Viva, the ACH transfer was also completed on Thursday, and payments post to individual accounts within 5 to 7 working days of receipt of funds. And that's per HRA Viva. The 403B deductions, we have 7 vendors that accept 403B payments. 2 of them accept ACH transfers, and all others are paid via check. They all require an individual account information with each payment. We send a lump sum check, and then the file we send has individual information so they know how to apply the payment. January payments were processed by check and files were sent. We did discover that the checks have not cleared our bank account. We are following up with each vendor today. Only one of those vendors reached out and let us know why they hadn't cashed the check. And they just hadn't cashed the check. February payments were processed by check and ACH files were sent. The ACH files were processed on February 28th. That was Wednesday, and that was to our 2 vendors who accept ACH payments. All other checks were mailed on March 1st, which was Friday. We will follow up with all uncashed checks beginning on Monday, March 11th. We're also checking into options for the other 5 403B vendors if they will accept ACH payments, which we believe will expedite the process of having payments posted to employee accounts. And finally, general information. There are individual issues and questions that have been resolved, and there are others that are in the process of resolution. We have reached out to staff and we have made appointments to meet with several staff. And those will be ongoing. And we will continue to monitor and follow up on email and with the Google form. I will also comment that I did have information from 2 staff that tried to log into their PERS account. And PERS says that they do not have an account for them. One person who has met with me in person, we pulled up their account in PERS. I was able to show them that, yes, they do have an account. Yes, payments have been posted. All their history is there, and it's an issue on PERS, on PERS side. Another person came in and logged into their PERS account, and every time they tried to log into something, PERS would kick them out of the website. And that is a problem with the PERS website and PERS information. And that is something that staff will need to follow up with PERS. When we did meet with PERS, that is something that we should ask PERS when we meet with them again, if they have had calls or know what those issues are. But that's not, again, that's with the PERS website, not with the district. And that's the end of my report.
I just add one thing to that. On the meetings with staff about PERS, the idea, part of the importance of that is that we cannot see into their account. We can only see what we have done on our side. And so when they're sitting down side by side with the payroll person, they can go back and forth and compare, and that really helps their staff see, where it is and what's going on. So wanted to throw that piece out. Can't get into personal accounts.
And that's also the same with the HSA and 403B accounts. We cannot see individual account information. All we can see is what we post. We can't see it when or if it goes into their accounts. And that's why it's important for staff to let us know as soon as possible so that we can follow up with the vendors and find out why that didn't happen.
So is there no way for us to audit them? Because we can't see it. I understand that that's an issue, but is there no kind of partnering with that service for us to be able to audit or figure that out before it becomes an issue?
So we are not, we don't have access to individual accounts because of confidentiality.
Right.
If a staff person wants to share their information with us, then, they can share that information with us. We do, like, for example, in PERS, I can look and see what PERS is posted to a person's account that we have sent them. So I can see gross wages that we reported. And I can also see information about their 6% that we withheld from their check that PERS is credited to their account. But I can't see that it actually went into their individual account.
So there's no way for our department to audit.
Correct.
that.
And the other part of that too with PERS is because of the unfunded liability. If a person has over a certain amount of gross pay every month, PERS will redirect a percentage of that to help pay for their unfunded liability. So their 6% is not the 6% they see in their account. And I think for tier 1, tier 2, it's like either 2.5 or 2.4% that's redirected. And for OPSERP, it's 0.6 or 0.75%. And that is done at the PERS level. We pay in the 6% and then PERS divert that percentage once it gets into the PERS system. And also for the 6%, that's something that PERS does an invoice for and takes that amount directly out of our account, out of our bank account.
So the deposits are made automatically, is what you're saying.
PERS removes that money from our account automatically.
And just to follow up, sorry, thank you for reminding me. I want to follow up on
one of the speakers from earlier saying that when they spoke with Verba and PERS, that they said that the reports that they were getting from us were not correct, or there were some issues, and that's why there was an issue. Is that something that you have seen, or is there another issue going on?
So on PERS, again, it goes back to records being suspended for a variety of reasons. It's not necessarily that the report we sent them is wrong. It's just doesn't have either matching information or there's missing information. So for example, when we pay a stipend does not have hours attached to it. It's a stipend. PERS will not accept an amount that doesn't have hours. So we have to go back in and put something in an hours column. And that's not something that uploads to PERS because it's not part of the upload file. It's something that has to be manually done. So it's not that the files are wrong. It's just that it needs to have information corrected so that it matches PERS information. And sometimes that information is correct on our end and PERS needs to fix it. When we have people who like change an address, when we upload the file that has an address that's not changed in PERS, they kick it back. Or a name change, or, you know, some of that other type of information.
Do we have any way of pushing back on PERS to have them update that information more quickly, or are we just kind of at their mercy?
It's their system and they do it. This is how they operate for all PERS entities, you know, school districts, governments, fire districts, and this is their system.
I think it's going to be helpful having the PERS person that we've
Mhm.
been meeting with answers more quickly now than, so I think that will help to get things resolved quickly too. Do you think?
Yes, we used to have a PERS representative that was dedicated to us, as all districts do. That person left and they have just recently been able to fill that position, and that person left almost 2 years ago now. So they have been short-staffed as well. The new person, as I mentioned, has been on virtual calls with payroll twice now, and we have more meetings set up. So that should be handled more quickly. And for the HRA Viva, again, it's not that the files are wrong, they don't match. So and this happens with HSA too, they have an invoice. Sometimes they don't update their invoices timely. If somebody makes a change to what they want their contribution to be, it can be changed either at American Fidelity or with HSA Viva or with us. And if it's done in one and not the other, the file that gets uploaded is different and that has to be investigated and changed. In the case of one HSA account, the employee has not turned in their paperwork to American Fidelity. So the contributions that we're making for them get suspended and returned to us. So that the employee needs to turn in their information. If there's not an account, there's no money for it to go in. We don't always know that until American Fidelity kicks us the money back and says that we don't have an account for this person. So it's not that the files are wrong, it's just they don't match the invoice or the billing.
Thank you.
Celia, did you have a question too?
Go ahead, I'll go next.
Celia, so on the 15% error where they do the kickback, do they accumulate that up to 15, then kick it back? Or do they, it sounds like that's what they do. And then you fix that and then resend it and then they look for another 15% and kick it back? Or is try to explain like how long the timeliness.
Yes.
Like that would take more time to do it that way than to find them all at once and then kick it back for.
No, it's a daily update. So if there are 15% of the records are in error or suspended, nothing in that file gets posted.
Okay.
And so it's a continual daily update.
But if it's 14%,
Then
the
all
rest goes and the
yes.
14 stay.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have 100 employees and they're 14 in error, they'll stay there to be remedied and the others will move forward.
Right.
And then we heard on the payroll, it seems like there's a lot of payroll issues. I've been following this for a couple of weeks since I got on the board, but more so in the last couple of weeks.
So the old system, you say if they worked 183 days times 6 hours, then divided by 10 months, and that would be their paycheck. Is the new system sounds like a daily rate now?
So it
Because it's
wasn't
based on a
their-
calendar?
It wasn't their paycheck, it was the number of hours. Their gross pay does not change. And their gross pay did not change in the old system to the new system. It stayed the same. What changed were the hours.
Okay.
So yes, in the old system, it did 183 days times the hours and divided it. They got 10 pays by 10. They got 12 pays. It was divided by 12. And the new system, it's based on their calendar. So in the pay period, it looks at the hours they normally work and it multiplies that by the number of work days in that pay period based on their calendar.
So more of a daily rate for the hours reflection.
Just on the hours, not on the gross pay. The gross pay does not change.
Okay, and then on the communication, is the staff supposed to communicate with you first line? Some of the staff had mentioned that they hadn't received any responses to their emails that were days or weeks old.
There are 3 ways for staff to communicate with us. There are 2 group email accounts that were set up last year. One is HR and the other is payroll. And the HR group email is monitored by all of the HR staff, and the payroll one is monitored by myself and my payroll staff. And we can see when people have sent in the email and when it's been responded back to. The other is with the Google Doc that we restarted again, and those are time-stamped, and the other is a direct email. We have when we see trends like the question about hours, we send out a group email to all staff answering that question, because to have that an individual email, there's just not enough time in a day, and a group email will address them as well as others who may have that question who haven't emailed. And we did the same thing with the PERS. We did a group email to that.
And about the leave.
And about the leave as well.
I saw those, yeah.
With the number of emails, we do triage. If an email seems to say I didn't get paid, or I didn't get paid at all, or I've been shorted hours, those get priority because we want to make sure everybody gets paid. And then if it's just a question about a check as opposed to something didn't happen, they get triaged in that way. So our goal is to answer 24 hours, but the number of emails we have, if we worked 24 hours straight, we still would not have them all answered. It's just the sheer number. And not all emails are simple emails. Some of them take take some time. I had one that I was looking back into their 2015 pay, and that took some time to look back on that situation. So we want to make sure that we answer people completely and thoroughly, and that takes time.
Okay, and I heard from one speaker that a student at one of the schools was paid too much and then he had to work more. Were you aware of that one, or is that one new?
That I did have a conversation with the administrator in that building, and that yes, that did happen, and there were some compounding issues with that. And we did speak with the administrator that did speak with the staff, with the student worker.
Okay, I did read some of that Excel report that showed there were some people that received extra leave days and extra pay, and commend those people for coming forward. It's not easy to give stuff back, but it definitely helps to.
It certainly speaks to their
identify.
integrity.
Yeah, integrity, and then it helps identify a problem. So it sounds like we got a lot of work to do, and so we'll be listening and talking, I'm sure. Thank you.
My question was, last year when all the issues surfaced, one piece of the remedy was that we were going to invite someone to come speak to staff and explain PERS and the PERS process. I think 2 or 3 times, hopefully. Did that happen? And who came?
We did have Tim Yeomans did come, and he did go to buildings, and he didn't speak to PERS specifically, but he did talk about the 403Bs and the HSA and paychecks and the W-4s and things like that. And I believe that part of that agreement was the unions wanted to choose who they wanted to come have talk. And I don't know, I don't believe that happened. But, again, we have reached out to PERS and they have agreed to have someone come out either in person or virtually and do a presentation. And we've also encouraged people, especially when they're nearing retirement, to call up PERS and start talking to them. And, and it's not too early to do that. And we've had several staff do that.
And that's another thing that's on the to-do list, like the urgent, are the folks that are retiring this year, the one-on-one meetings with them on payroll to just walk through everything, make sure it's all correct. So, sooner than later.
Also, the last time through, we went through and make sure I remember and understand this correctly, but PERS is essentially a mutual fund, right? And your earnings based on your deposits are only calculated once a year, right?
That is correct. So PERS cut off this year's March 5th.
Mhm.
And all the information that's reported to them for the calendar year 2023, they accumulate and it's posted to the accounts. And at that point is when they determine earnings or losses in each individual account. It's done once a year. So there's no loss on any earnings for the calendar year. If for some reason a district didn't report any files for anybody for a year, PERS would accumulate and put whatever they had into the account. And when that information was posted, that any lost earnings would be up to the district to make up, and PERS would take it out of the bank account.
So the piece I was getting at was that, and this seems weird to me, but it's been explained to me a couple times that this is really how it works. If you say deposited $100 from your check every month into PERS, so $1,200 at the end of the year, there would be no earnings difference as if you deposited that $1,200 on March 4th.
That's correct.
Right? Okay, just making sure that I understand that because that seems strange. But
It is strange and it is PERS.
Okay.
Tonight kind of caught me off guard because I thought Superintendent said last month that we were going to be smooth, and so I was very surprised to see all the problems. Were you surprised? I mean, I didn't expect this tonight at all. I thought it was all behind us.
I think in January, when we ran the payroll, when we did that report, there were few errors.
Right.
And that really was it wasn't perfect, but I think we were pretty clear about that. But as we rolled out the February payroll, then, the first thing showed up again. And the issue with the leave, that was, we hadn't done that in January. So we had preemptively sent out information to say this is a possibility, and tried to roll out January before February so people could get in and see what it looked like. Surprised. I wasn't surprised about the leave because, something could happen. I don't know if you were surprised about the other pieces or not.
Well, again, we issued five paychecks out of 500 and something. And if there are others who didn't get paid or think they didn't, we need to know. But that is less than we have done in the past.
Oh, testimony here tonight. No, there's more than 5.
We only issued 5 additional paychecks in February. So some of the issues that people talked about were, past. They talked about the PERS. There was talk about that, and that's been, ongoing. And I think that we've discussed that quite a bit. And the Viva account and the HSA accounts, that was a problem in January. And we sent checks, they cashed them in time, and they didn't post the files. That's not, once we put a check in the mail or send the payment ACH and it goes out of our bank, it's out of our hands. And why American Fidelity didn't post things, I don't know.
We've had problems with American Fidelity in the past, with posting files, and they don't have an answer for it. Brian mentioned that he has a meeting with them tomorrow or this week. I'd be really interested to see what they have to say. With the HRA Viva, it's, the same thing. They receive payment and they said it takes us 5 to 7 days, working days after we get it, to post it to accounts. That is their process.
Okay. So one thing, I just would say to all of you is, Brian has a meeting this week with our union representatives. I also have a meeting this week with union representatives, and our task is that we're going to go through and share, this is what we have that's unresolved, and they're going to share what they're aware of so we can compare notes. And the goal is to make sure that nobody felt really taxed, and that each piece has been, each person has been taken care of.
And once that's done, what can we do to reassure staff that it's done and it's correct? Because
Well, I think that part of that will, need to come to staff, because I can come up with something that would say, here, this is what I've done and this is why you should trust. But I would be interested to hear what they need in order to have that trust back. We can print out a report that shows when we transferred money. That doesn't mean that the vendor is going to post it to their account, but it can show that, we did do it. As I said, they cashed the checks on February 2nd. If I need to print a check that shows they endorsed it on the back on that day, we can do that. But that doesn't mean it's going to post in their account on that day. It's when we process the payment. And again, we cannot see individual accounts. So until somebody comes to us and says, my money didn't get into my account, and if they want to share that information with us, then we can help them on that end. So I would be interested in hearing from them what they would like to see.
Well, and I think too, part of the reason that we would be so transparent with the associations with the issues specifically that we're dealing with. I mean, there's several reasons, but one of which is to hear from them if we're like, do they see the problem that was problems that we're having, and knowing those problems, whether it's them waiting for 2 weeks to process our check or what have you. Do they have any suggestions? That's one thing. But the other thing is to together make sure that we're answering every single concern. And part of my job, the job that I did before I was doing this here, but my job always has been to make sure all of our systems are working together, right? And so what I'm watching for is exactly that, is what can we do to make sure things don't repeat? What systems can we put in place where we can? There's some places that we can't, with PERS, we have limits to what we can see, but what can we do? And that's why I've kind of dove in this week and tried to figure out what things we can do. And that's why I'm talking to PERS and talking to American Fidelity. And if I need to talk to all of our VIBA accounts, our VIBA reps, I'll do that too, just to make sure. We need to know what we can do to make sure that what checks can we put in place that are allowed based on what they'll let us see, so that it doesn't happen again. I've talked to Bob on many occasions over the past week. Yeah.
He certainly would have a help on that.
Yeah. And he'll be, yeah, he's part of that.
So we did hear from Stacy, 24 years with the district tonight, and she had mentioned that 20 or 30 classified staff had come to her in the past and had mentioned something about $50 short. What would be that process? They would contact you, come down?
Yeah, so I want to step in there and answer your question is that not that I if Stacy says she talked to 30 people, I'm sure she did. But we have to know from each one of them, if there's an issue, we need to know. And using that spreadsheet, I know there's many different ways for folks to tell us what's wrong. But by using that spreadsheet, it's tracked. There's a place that we can go back to when they email, like if you've all received lots of emails ever, I'm going back and making sure you answer each one can be painstaking. But using that Google form and just filling out your concern and sending it in, that gives us a record of it. And then we can go down the list every day and say, okay, what are we going to tackle today? Boom, boom, boom. I'll communicate with these people. I'll tackle these issues. And that makes it, I think that's more expeditious and that we can get through things quicker. They can email, but they also, that's what we encourage them. That's what I encourage them to do in my letter to them, is to fill out that form so that we can then take care of their issue pretty quickly. But everyone has to do that. You can't say, oh, me and my friends, because we need to know like each issue. You know what I mean?
Right, right. So she had said that they contacted her, that she didn't contact her, that she didn't contact them, but she said that some had mentioned they felt threatened. And I can't, we can't ask you to not threaten them or why they feel
I don't
threatened.
think the word was threatened.
I wrote down 20 to 30 classified have contacted her, and then I put threatened.
I thought it was intimidated or like some other word, but
I don't want to argue that, but the question is,
okay.
is it a simple process? And so if they use the Google Docs, obviously their name's on it. If they're $50 short, they need to go in and put their $50 short for a couple of reasons. One, to get their $50, but also to help remedy the problem.
Absolutely.
And so I would urge the folks to come through, and if not, go to your union. And as a union leader, I know how that works. Go to your union and express the concern and let the union come to you. But
the quickest way, like I encourage folks to go to their association, but send it to us so we can work on it. But what the association is going to then have to do is even more work to be able to figure out all of that and bring it to us. And then we're eventually going to have to talk to that person. Right. So really what we want to do is hear from each individual, what's going on, what can we do to solve it?
And I think by listening to Stacy's story, you can kind of understand where that comes from. She says that the 4 checks were incorrect only in the last 2 years of her 24 years. And she said she's come to the office those times, they were $150 to $700 short. And she was told, no, it's right. And then she had mentioned that they're always corrected after she came to the office. So you can understand where that employee feels like they might be pushing the limit a little bit, to where maybe they're whatever that intimidated or threatened means, is they come in and they say, no, it's right. Like Stacy says, no, it's right. And then Stacy has to push back a little more and insists, no, it's not right. She has to provide more information. And some people just aren't like Stacy. They don't go to the next step. They don't stand up for themselves. And so they might feel threatened. I'm not saying anybody's threatening anybody. That's how they feel when they leave.
Yeah.
They feel like, oh, intimidated. Yeah. And so we got to be open and bring these people, we do classified appreciation week this week. And we got to extend that throughout the year and show them that we're open arms and we work for them. And, you work for them, I work for them, we work for them. Yeah, we work for them. So I just wanted to mention a suggestion that we open arms and just listen and take the information and before we say no, take it all. So,
agreed.
One last one, and this one didn't get a lot of press tonight, but the payday this month, because it fell on a Sunday, and then you addressed that it was sent on the 23rd, but I heard from Bob that it didn't come to the 26th, and I heard from someone else that some people missed rent because of it, and the contract language says the 25th. So the next time that happens looks to be August, which I guess we don't do normal payroll in August, but what are we going to do the next time the 25th is a Sunday?
Right now, we're in negotiations with the issue aware with our classified association. And so I won't address that because we are in those negotiations.
Okay.
And with the our certified people, that is a topic that is on our contract movement committee meeting. So that's, I think, what I could say, because these are both negotiation type things.
Okay.
It would be addressed with the associations.
Then maybe a background question. Was that language that was perhaps changed in the last contract negotiation, or did the contract always say the 25th, and going back to 10 years or so, the district has always handled it this way?
Past practice has been if the 25th is on Sunday, payday's on Monday. If the 25th is on Saturday, payday's on Friday. The exception to that was at Christmas, that pay has always been before Christmas. And the same with Thanksgiving, pay has always been before Thanksgiving, regardless of the day. Looking back, looking at the current certified contract, it talks about the 25th. And the prior contract also talked about the 25th. Looking back at pay calendars as they were put out in one year, I believe it was the 2019 year, the payday was stated as a 26th on 2 different months. So it was a question of past practice and contract language.
But when you look at the contract, and this is what I checked with SLEA on, but again, I'm not the confusion was there, and I understand why. We make the payment within the contract. So the contract says we need to pay by the 25th, and we paid by the 25th, we paid by the 23rd. It goes into some banks on the 23rd, goes into some banks on the 24th, goes into some banks on the 25th, and it goes into some banks on the 26th. It depends on the bank's policy. But we put the bank money in the bank on the 23rd. We made the payment by noon on the 23rd, and that's what the contract requires us to do. What created the confusion is then you look at the payday calendar and it says 26th. And so that language has been on the payday calendar since since I can ever remember. And I don't know why it's there. Maybe there's a contract somewhere, back years and years that things were different, and that's exactly how we did it. But that's why it's confusing. And so what we're talking with the associations about is the difference. So that we're following the contract, but that doesn't make sense what we're saying on the payday calendar. Let's talk about that. Let's work that out. If we want to change the contract language, or if we want to change, we just need to talk about that. And so that's what needs to be talked about with both associations. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Before we move on, can because we're going to go into executive session, then we're going to come back. And I want to just put out there that I am very, very concerned hearing the staff come to speak with us tonight. I hold a lot of respect for the people that work with our kids so much. I consider them part of my family, and you as well, the people that work at the district office. And I really want to express how strongly I want to find a way to bring the two groups together, and for us to have a really strong culture of customer service when it comes to working with our people in schools, because they are dealing with kids every day, and this is not their specialty. And I know that you guys know your stuff, and I want to find a way to bridge that gap by giving them the information in a way that they can hear it, and that we can solve their issues. And I thank you. And this is going to be a hard month. And I want to encourage everybody to keep that in mind. Thanks.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, next up, we have math curriculum adoption, Jeremy.
All right. I'll be brief. This is an update on one part of the math curriculum adoption process. So about a year ago, we started this with a team of teachers looking at best practices around math, creating a rubric for what we would look for in a math program over the summer. We looked at those programs, selected options to pilot, and for the last 6 months have been piloting those in our schools. We have over 40 staff members, K through 12, that have been a part of that. The portion that I want to make sure you're aware of tonight is this part where we get community and parent input and feedback. So this is from our website. It's the Teaching and Learning Department. If you go here and click on Teaching and Learning, you'll get to this page. And under instructional materials has the math curriculum adoption page. So essentially, this is an opportunity for people to go in and look at the options that we have on the table and give us feedback about what they think, both open-ended and rating scales. So I'll show you that pretty quickly. This is happening in a couple of weeks over in the training room on the other side of the building. It has dates right here that you can do by appointment. We also have 2 evenings that will be drop-in that will be available from 4:30 to 6. This should say March 19th and March 21st. It's a Tuesday and Thursday evening. If people also want to just do this from home online, that is possible as well. So up here, there's different links to be able to do that. This virtual caravan essentially shows them all the materials that they would be able to see in the training room, and in some cases more digitally. So these are the different programs that we chose to pilot in our schools. And so they can just click on any one of these links and go to the information. There's also a list here of all the publishers that were available across Oregon if people want to dive in there. The feedback that they'll give us is listed here by clicking on any one of the programs. So this is the 9 through 12 options, and then 6 through 8 and down to K through 5. What the form looks like is right here. And essentially, they give, again, some open-ended rating scales. Sorry, this is at the bottom of the survey. Let me pull it up. So they can list their name if they want, they don't have to, what group they're representing, and the materials that they looked at either online or in person. And then they choose the program that they're giving us feedback on, tell us the strengths, the weaknesses, and an overall rating, and then they submit. And then this becomes more data for us to be able to look at. We have data from our reviews that we did of programs over the summer. We have data from teachers from all the pilots, and we have data from the students from the pilots. So next month, it won't be brief, and I'll give you an overview of all that we did for math adoption, and we'll be asking you to approve a program at each level. So any questions? Tammy.
Just to clarify, the programs that we're picking from, there's a limited number that the state approves that we can pick from, correct?
That's correct. And we are allowed to select outside of that range. And if we do select outside of that range, then there's an extra process we go through to basically submit some answers to the state about why we chose it and why it still meets the criteria that they're holding us to. And I'll be forthright in that there are a couple of levels where that may be the case for us. So I'll give you that information when we come next month.
Thank you. Any questions about math curriculum adoption? Okay, I'm kind of needing a break, but why don't we get through the business items and then go to executive and take a break before executive session? I mean, I know you really want to sit here just a little bit longer, Star, but
Okay. Well, welcome. My name is Star Sano. I'm the principal for the Academy for Character Education Charter School. Thank you for having me here tonight to give you our annual report. So I have chosen slides that have a very ancient world theme because that is our history focus this year. So we are starting with the prehistory. You can go ahead on to, I'll actually cover an overview, tell you a little bit about our building, accreditation, and our enrollment. So the first thing is about our curriculum for the year. We are in the ancient world and studying biology. ACE is set up for a 4-year rotating curriculum. So we're going to go into the Middle Ages through the Renaissance next year. We'll be in the Age of Discovery, our year 3, and year 4, which was just last year. So we're always on a rotation, was American history. This is our 17th year. I was just talking to Chad right before walked in here, and it's like, feels like 5. I know it went by really fast, but loving our curriculum, loving learning more about our past history. Next slide, please. The building. So Chad gave me some like tips. He said, here's what here's what we'd like you to talk about. We are in our new building. I particularly like the one that has the outhouse on the front. Do you like that one? We had that for quite a while. Neighbors walking by would come and use it. So that's moving in over the summertime. You'll notice that we had no sidewalk there. First month, if you drove by, you would see no sidewalk there. They discovered in July, I believe, a heating oil tank. I'm learning so many things. Yeah. Discovered that right underneath that area. So when we fortunately were able to get a grant through our contractor was able to get a grant for us to, the decision was, do we take it out or do we just leave it there? But it was very close to the building. It would have been an issue with the building stability. So they ended up filling it with concrete and it is not moving. It is staying there. So the good thing is we got a new front walkway out of the deal. But for the first month of school, we used the side entrance. These are some of the kids we did. We moved in Labor Day weekend. There's a reason it was called Labor Day weekend. We had 12-hour days, 3 days in a row, getting everything just moved over. We had been moving over as much as we could, but that final push was Labor Day because we didn't have water or power really before then. So kind of had to wait. We had that first week of the week before Labor Day, we were in there painting all the classrooms and trying to get that all done. And I did have some raised eyebrows looking at me like, are you kidding? Like, are we really going to be in here in a week? So yes, we did. We made it. It's been an interesting process though. I think I have pictures of classroom or characters next. Yeah. So this is us in the gym. We've got our character assembly happening again. The last 2 years, we were not able to be together for our character assembly. So we were in 2 separate buildings. We were in 4 separate buildings over in the other location, 2 larger rooms. So we were split up. So it's nice to have everybody back together again. And there's all of those donated chairs. I have been collecting stuff from all the schools that are closing. I'm on the lookout for bleachers or extra chairs for the gym because we only have a limited amount. So next slide, please. Oh, the playground. So whoever put in the housing next door, that play structure was over there on their side. And we just asked the question like, hey, what are you going to do with that? And they donated it back to us. So that was very kind of them. I had a local contractor put it in and get it all safe and ready to go. So the kids have loved it, love having that space there. And our intent and goal is to use that property for other events. So we're talking to South Valley Athletics. We actually have a student who is his Eagle Scout project. He's combining it with his character project so that he can have a shed built. Our families will help with it. He's got a contractor who's, I think, his scout leader. That's the plan for this spring, is to get that up and running. So then soccer equipment can be stored there and it can be used by whoever needs it. So that's coming up. And then recess right now, it's actually been in the gym. So that's really great because we did not have a spot at our other facility for that. And I didn't mention, but we are just getting doors. So every single door inside had to be replaced. There were 52 of them. It doesn't seem like there should be that many. Well, everyone on our side. So, we're not using the full building. We're only using like 2/3 of it. So 52 on our side. So there's a firewall in the middle and we call it no man's land or the Arctic because it's very cold on the other side. But yeah, lots of doors. So we're just getting the doors in this month. It's reduced the noise quite substantially. So it's great now to have the kids go in the gym. It was a little bit tricky before without doors there. So these are just pictures of some of the classrooms. You'll notice most of them, we just had the flooring ripped up. That was part of the asbestos abatement. So we don't have new carpets on them, but we have lots of area rug. Let's see, next slide. Oh, accreditation. Well, that has just been a joy. That's been my little joy this year. So just finished that. We had our exit report with our evaluator last Monday. So fresh off the, hot off the press here. Everything was due January 31st in our accreditation, what they call it, the workspace, all of the documentation. And then they review it. They hold meetings with our stakeholders, our parents, our staff, and our students, and then do a report back to us and kind of give us a little bit of an overview of where they think. So the last slide here is going to tell you I don't have that official document yet. but we did have our exit report, so we know we passed. And then just kind of an overview of what the report entailed. So Lynn McCann was our evaluator. And the engagement team, I'm sure you're all familiar with all these things related to accreditation, but they have performance standards that you have. There are 30 performance standards. I think they doubled every time. Like, I think it was 20 last time. This time it's 30. When they have the conversations, they have us do an executive summary, evidence portfolio, and then do this self-assessment that they then, like, look at all of our surveys and look at all of the data, look at our student performance, and then give us feedback. And accreditation is really just about continuous improvement. So yeah, it's great you're doing this, this, and this, but how can you improve? What are you going to do in the future? How are you going to be better? The next slide is just really what, their overall findings. Yes, we're a K through 12. Yes, we're a hybrid model. We really do have an intentional mission and vision, strong relationships with our partners. We do enjoy small class sizes. We're focused on classical education, and we have 3 programs: our foundations, our preparatory, and our honors. Next slide. So what were the themes that our accreditor had found? She noticed that we had a strong culture of learning, that the learning, that we really are focused on positive relationships and the well-being of our students. Their staff is implementing instruction aligned for relevancy and inclusion that supports our purpose and beliefs of classical education, that we're working to make instruction relevant and meaningful to learners, and that we are making decisions based on data. The next steps, one of the changes that Cognia has done is it's a 6-year evaluation. Like, your accreditation lasts for 6 years, but at year 3, they're going to check back. So we don't really know, like, these are the things she said, these are the things you're going to want to track, but we don't really have the official, like, here's progress monitoring was one of the things I said, I know we need to work on that in our self-evaluation. So I have a feeling that's going to come up, that providing better rubrics and things like that are going to come up in our actual, the report that we get. So they're going to check back with us and find out, how are we doing on those things? Are we just saying, at accreditation? And then next time we come around to it, did we actually do anything in that? One of our accreditation goals, our last cycle, was related to technology. We really got dinged on that because we're an old style school. We didn't have technology very much, and then COVID happened. And so we got smart boards and, webcams and computers and Chromebooks for all of the kids, or all of the high school students. So we did better this time on technology, but then there are other things. And that again comes down to the continuous improvement. Let's see. So the things that they're wanting us to continue to enhance opportunities, to really work with our stakeholders. That was one of the things I learned in this. We did a survey in the fall with our families, and then I need to do that same survey again in the spring. And Cognia has, just a wealth of resources for us to use. So I will do that again to kind of compare data and just be more mindful about doing those surveys and keeping that feedback input going. To continue, we're always working on our curriculum. We're always focused on improving instruction and advancing learning, continuing to analyze the data and make sure we're engaging our students. That was also one of the things that we noticed, that student voice. We really need to work on that as a school. And what's that's going to look like. That will involve a team of people making those decisions. And then continue to use data to make decisions for our professional development. So we're on kind of a 4-year rotation for our professional development, but we also need to be flexible and willing to tackle new topics as they come up. The next steps, as I said, we won't get our final report for 30 to 45 business days after it's put into the Cognia workspace. They have other eyes that look at everything and just make sure that everything is done correctly. So that's that, thankfully. We're done. Whew. So it's a joy. Okay. And then enrollment will be the next thing. And I just wanted to give you just a quick overview on the next slide, the demographics. I know that's always interesting. 25% of the students in our school do come from South Lane, and just kind of the breakdown. So we're currently at 285, slightly down from last year, partly because teacher shortages is a real thing. And if we don't have enough teachers, we don't take more students. So our wait list for our foundations program is substantial because they had about 190 in that program last year, but we had a teacher move away and we just haven't been able to fill that position. And I will say last year I taught a class because teacher shortages is a real thing. And I said, I can't do that this year because I'm going to be doing accreditation. So that was, it's just, you can only take so many students that you can actually provide for. So that is it, other than thank you very much. We love our relationship with the district and we are so appreciative of your faith in us that we get to keep on going. We love what we're doing. Do you have any questions for me?
You said you needed chairs?
Yes.
What kind?
Well, like adult size.
So check with Faye Stewart at the city, because over the last few years, I've probably gotten a couple hundred donated to the armory and they're in the basement.
Okay.
And I know that they wouldn't turn anything away. So there's probably some that they won't use. So check with him and see what
Okay.
they could donate.
Super, thank you.
Star, thank you for what you do. Where were you at when I was going to school?
Yeah.
I needed what you guys do. I've seen the data, and like Brian said earlier, we can look at data all day long. And we can see the data, but we don't know why. And I'm interested in learning why and how. I've seen the
You're
data.
welcome to come. Are you saying?
I'm gonna come down. So I was gonna bring that.
Oh,
up. What are you
yeah.
doing on April 13th?
Is it, was it a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday?
I don't
Those are
know.
the days that
I think it's a Saturday. It's a Saturday.
I might be there working.
Like a fundraiser on
There's so many things to do down there. Keeps me busy.
Lori Glenn says you guys are having a fundraiser on April
Well,
13th.
just is working on it, but I don't know that it's gonna happen that day.
It's gonna happen. We're gonna do tacos.
That's what,
We're
she
doing
was talking to
tacos.
you then? Oh.
Yeah, I do the
I
tacos.
I heard about the
Yeah, I didn't
taco
wanna,
thing.
like,
Yeah.
Plug it here. Yeah, we're doing tacos and Ace. No, I'm interested. My son is a product of a charter school. And graduated valedictorian of his class. 20, almost, my wife's back there. I should ask her, almost 23. He was born in 2001. So yeah, almost 23 in April and graduated valedictorian and went on to the US Navy and retired after 4 years. And he's back. He's actually leaving next week to lineman school in Idaho. And I credit the Joseph Langley was here last week. He ran for a vacant board position. He was one of the teachers that helped my son get through school and be successful. And Jeremy knows my son. That was no easy feat. So I get it, but he's a good kid. But yeah, he needed a little extra, and I think that's what you guys do. So there's value. I see the value. I see the value in what you guys do, and I say that from my heart. And so when you say thanks for having faith in us, I really do. And I can share the story with my co-board members if they want to know more. But look forward to seeing you guys in April or whenever we do it. And
Well, and like I say, you're welcome to come for a tour. We've had a couple of people come through just like, oh, I used to go to school here. And
I'd like to find out where the best place to set up the Blackstone is and have a line of people that usually show up. So yeah, I should do that.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'd like to
Sounds
look
good.
inside the building. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? We're good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Talked it out.
So this is an action item. Is it just to accept the report? Is that the action that's required?
Right, we had the one applicant.
No, action item for the ACE report.
We need to accept the annual report, right?
Yeah.
Well, heck, I'll make a motion to accept the annual report from Ace Charter School. That's the first motion I know it's not, but I make the first. Yeah.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Star.
Thank you. Thank all your staff for what they do. Thank all your staff. We're doing accreditation too, Oh, I was gonna ask another question.
I wanted to know what you can handle in that new building if you did have unlimited resources for teachers. What can you handle?
We have teachers right now, our teachers and have a date. So that's why I feel like we would comfortably have the date, but we're not anywhere near that. We're just fine, like we're doing fine, but we don't have, we're not.
As far as building capacity, what do you think it is? I know it's new, it's a new space, so you probably don't have it figured. Right.
So.
Okay, I'll ask you next time. Yeah, like capacity, but what can you handle? Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, next up, budget committee member. So this actually has your name on it, Celia. So are you taking this or? Okay.
And we have one applicant for that. Looks familiar, that's not. And you. I make a motion that we appoint Brittany Stewart to position 6 on the budget. committee.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome.
Appreciate your volunteering.
Yeah.
Those are some nice ladies, man.
Yep.
We got the resolution there?
All right, and it is classified recognition week. Yay. And so I have a proclamation. Whereas the education of youth is essential to the future of our community, state, country, and world. And whereas classified employees are the backbone of our public education system. And whereas classified employees work directly with students, educators, parents, volunteers, business partners, and community members. And whereas classified employees support the smooth operation of offices, the safety and maintenance of buildings and property, and the safe transportation, healthy nutrition, and direct instruction of students. And whereas our community depends upon and trusts classified employees to serve students. And whereas classified employees with their diverse talents and true dedication nurture students throughout their school years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South Lane School District Board of Directors proclaims March 4th, 2024 to be Classified Employee Appreciation Week, and be it further resolved that the South Lane School District Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join in this observance, recognizing the dedication and hard work of these individuals. Adopted this 4th day of March, 2020. And with that, can we please take about a 7-minute recess and come back at 8:10 for executive session?